what the pandemic taught us was that, again, life is frail.
Yeah.
And things can happen not through anything that we did bad. The other thing that's happening, as somebody who's, 40-ish, is you and your wife are both at a classic second midlife crisis stage. Now, I'm not saying it is a crisis for you, but it is a normal transition where you start to look around and say, well, what else is there in life? When you're in one of these periods that one of my former doctoral students who's now on the faculty at Bucknell, Udayandar, and I have been studying, he took the lead on, is liminality, when you're in this in-between space. When that happens, you very often look around you. I mean, if you're on top of things, if you're scared by it, you just drink or eat too much or gamble. But if you're in a healthy place, you start to look around and you start to notice your parents are not as active as they were. At 40, you may or may not still have your grandparents alive.
I do.
You do? Well, that's even better, because it's amazing that they're still alive, but still, they've got to be moving slower.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, your sensitivity to the fact that life isn't eternal, despite certain Marvel movies about superhumans, I think it makes sense that you'd be interested in this process. And I'm hoping that what you and your wife spend time, I should say, not more, spend time thinking about is how people morph their sense of purpose and vision as they age. Because I think the people that maintain an active, energetic life have allowed themselves to change. They haven't stayed rigid.
So how could you do that for yourself?
Well, first, you have to be at a place where you're willing to reflect. And not everybody is reflective naturally. Second, so be at a place, at a stage in your life. So it's better if you hit it at one of these 7 to 10 year cycles that I call the midlife crisis transition times. It often happens, around the 0 years, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. But it also happens when something external hits. Now, it could be negative, like a pandemic, or, a close friend dies of a heart attack, or it could be something positive, like the birth of your first child or your second child. Using those moments to say, okay, let me think about what life means is a very, very strong positive. The second ingredient, going back to vision and relationships, is it really is healthy to talk to others who are going through something similar. So it doesn't mean you always have to talk to a coach or a mentor. It could be talking to some peers who are having the same experiences. I think the future of what we call peer coaching in groups is huge, where people get together to talk.
Yeah.
So those two ingredients seem to help the neurological and hormonal systems that allow the human mind and spirit to be open to a new idea.
Beautiful, beautiful.
One of the biggest things that I learned over the years is that we have this bias called the confirmation bias. And that is our bias to kind of confirm what we already believe. and dismiss what we already don't believe, right? And so we tend to only look for and believe information that supports our existing beliefs. And it's really hard, right, to overcome natural biases. There's reasons why we have these biases, and they evolved over millennia. But one of the things that I try really hard to do is to question my thinking, when I can. And so one of the questions that I ask myself a lot is, what else is true? What else is true? And I think that helps me sometimes. It helps broaden my perspective and bring a little bit more critical thinking to the things that I'm working on, to the practices, to my beliefs. And I'm not perfect at this. I exhibit a lot of confirmation bias, but it's something that I try to do.
Beautiful, beautiful.
My ability to think has been improved by one tool, one very, very, very important tool: a pencil.
Pencil. Wow.
A pencil. You could use a pen, but let's go with the pencil. With a pencil, I write a lot slower than I think. And I used to believe that was a bad thing. The trouble is, we don't capture the thoughts when they happen quickly. So the ability to think, for me, and for many of the smart people that I have the pleasure of knowing and the honor of knowing, getting a pencil and writing it down. What do I want to achieve? What is standing between me and achieving it? Just lists, don't overthink it. Just get the things out of your head and write them down. What are some of the things I can do to solve those problems, to make those problems smaller, to reduce the chance of those problems happening? And write them down. A pencil, you can always rub it out. But it slows you down. Writing means you're going from just thinking to actually doing, and you can start to create a plan. You can start to break a problem down into smaller pieces. And I'm a big fan of lists. I love a list. A list I can cross things off. The great thing about a list is you've got to create one in the first place, which means you have to think about what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And then you can track your progress by just crossing the things off. So thinking starts by slowing down and writing down. So grab a pencil, whatever problem you're trying to solve, grab a pencil, start step 1, write what you want to achieve. What is that goal? Step 2, what are the things that I need to do, that I need to overcome, that are standing between me and achieving that goal? Step 3, and this is the fun part, how many different ways can I think of to solve them?
Wow. What are the baby steps I should take today and that can lead me there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's one more framework that I'll mention briefly that I think will be helpful in taking that baby step. So I talked about disrupting yourself in that framework of applying management theory to the individual. The other framework that we as a company spend much of our time on is something called the S curve. People know it as the adoption curve, but I had this aha, and we've codified it at Disruption Advisors as a way to understand what growth looks and feels like. And so there are 3 major parts of it. There's the launch point, there's the sweet spot, and mastery. And the baby step that you can take is understanding what growth's going to feel like. When you're at the launch point, you feel overwhelmed, discouraged, frustrated, impatient, like an imposter. In the sweet spot, you feel exhilarated because you're growing fast, and it is fast. And in mastery, you feel like you've done what you came to do, feeling a little bit bored. And so that's when you make a decision to disrupt yourself. The baby step that the people that are listening can take is do 2 things. Number 1 is, if you're feeling in this place of stuckness, ask yourself, okay, I'm on the top of this S curve. I'm in mastery. I'm not growing like I used to. What bad thing will happen to me if I stay here when I can feel in the deepest part of my soul that I need to do something new? What will happen? Just ask that question. That's a provocation. because that'll get your brain and your heart and your mind priming to do something new. And then the second piece that I would say to that is, as you do this new thing, when you're on the launch point, give yourself permission to be there, to say, I'm overwhelmed, I'm scared, I am uncomfortable, I am awkward, and good for me. Because what that means is I am exercising the muscle of doing something new. This means I am growing. And the fact that I feel this way means that I'm alive, I'm making progress, and this is a normal situation. So give yourself permission to be in mastery and feeling like you need to do something new, and give yourself permission to be at the launch point, and use the S-curve as a way to normalize that experience of what growth looks and feels like. That is a baby step, because it's just thinking a little bit differently to normalize the experience that you're having for that deep animating force that you have of wanting to grow.
Well, you know, you mentioned your daughter studying psychology.
Yes.
I'm a big supporter and proponent of therapy. And that helps open your mind. Along the way, and that's part of the book too, that once you hit 9 years old, your soul gets chipped from the world. The reality hits in, it becomes harder to become pure. Until 9 years old, you're very, mostly pure soul. And so as we get older, we get chipped away. And then it clouds our vision. It's like a car going, an older car, the headlights get so fogged up from being so old and so long and not clean. Therapy will clean all that stuff out in you, give you a lot more clarity. We'll get rid of the things that are holding you back. And the highest level of that would be psychoanalysis, where you go very deep into your mind, and you just get a lot of clarity. And once you get clarity, it really is the difference between a cloudy sky and a perfectly blue sky. You can see things you couldn't see before that were holding you back. Some of us are sadly are so at that point damaged or chipped or whatever that they become addicts or alcoholics. I'm not even talking about them. I'm talking about each one of us as individuals can benefit from opening ourselves up through clarity, through therapy, from a licensed professional who's able to get in there. Not your friend, not your wife, but a licensed professional that can really clear out your mind so that you can be even more successful and do what you want to do.
Beautiful. You can pick one word of wisdom or one word of advice from any of them that you remember the most up until today. What would that story or advice be?
Oh, that's a good question. I'll have to think on that for a minute. The best advice I've ever gotten. I would definitely say the best advice I've ever gotten, like along the lines, right? I don't remember it verbatim, but is to just be who you are and be like authentic and confident. Because as soon as you try to copy someone else, at best you're going to be a bad copy of them.
Wow.
And I think in order to be like successful, no matter what you do, whether you're talking about art or an entrepreneur, if you're not authentic, if you're trying to copy someone else and have this like hedge around you, people feel it. No matter how, like usually how good of an actor you might be or might not be, I think people feel it when someone is being inauthentic. And I think it then prevents you from finding the sort of connections that you need to build a great life. And so I think that that's a really good thing to take into consideration. And it was good advice to me because I feel like I was trying so much to fit in. But I never really quite did. And sort of tapping more into the strengths that I had and the person that I am is what, at the end of the day, really allowed me to build the career I've built, but also to have really good friendships and connections.
Wow, wow. So how have you been growing your ability to think over the years?
When Randy and I were starting the Entertainment Technology Center, before we had students, we would fly out to California and meet with the heads of all these companies that we knew that our students would want to work for. And so we went out and we met with Pixar. Now this is Pixar right after they made Toy Story. Okay, so they were still the little company that could in San Rafael, California, in Marin County. And Randy and I were like taking bets because we were going to ask them being John Lasseter, the Chief Creative Officer of Pixar, and Ed Catmull, the Chief Technology Officer, if there is only one class that they would want every Pixar employee to have taken, what would that be? And so in the hotel, Randy and I are like, oh, they're going to want C++ programming. No, they're going to want C# programming. No, they're going to want this. We go meet in the meeting, we ask that question, and Ed Catmull, the Chief Technology Officer, says, improvisational acting. And I'm like, huh? Because I had suggested improvisational acting back in Pittsburgh before the trip because I viewed it as the only living example of non-linear storytelling, which is what it is, because you don't know what's going to happen, but you've got to be on your toes for when the ideas come, when the actor says something. And I said to Ed Catmull, wow, why do you say that? And he says, because it's the best team building exercise. It's team building because in improvisational acting, it only works if your response to everything is yes and. Yes and. So I might start off saying, okay, it's a domestic story, and we're all in the kitchen, and I'm going to be mother, and you're going to be the father. And then all of a sudden the father says, well, I've got something to be honest with you. I'm actually an alien from outer space. You don't sit there going, well, that's stupid. That's stupid. Instead, you've got to go, okay, didn't see that coming. All right, let me build upon that. And so I've always made it a point to willfully engage in something I don't know, but which is popular among a particular demographic, like young people. Esports was that, okay? Esports. I didn't know what the hell esports was until, like in Korea, they have what are called PC bong, and bong is Korean word meaning room, so PC room, and you go in there and they're playing video games. It's like, okay, all right. But it was from there that they started to do esports. And it was like, wow, what is this thing? It's called esports. And I started to hang out with them, knowing that I don't play those games. My fingers ain't going to do what you can do. But clearly you're fascinated by this. Clearly you're immersed in this. So why? What's the appeal? And that's how I learn. I listen to them. I ask questions. And the funny thing is, I'm now considered an expert on the esports industry. I don't play the games, but I can tell you where the money is. I can tell you what are the up-and-coming games. I can tell you what the teams are. I can tell you the best tournaments and all that. So, and all of that is by approaching people that know more than I do, saying, teach me or let me learn from you.
Well, this is where the neuroscience comes in really handy, because I have learned the different areas of my brain that I can use in better ways through the neuroscience. For example, I now know that if I take on too much, and if there's too much stimulation, the stress curve and the impact on my goal direction, empathy, clarity, memory, all the executive functions from the prefrontal cortex, the more I take on, the more the capabilities will be impaired. So I have learned to stay in this zone of stimulation and stress, to not go over the curve where it becomes so much that I can't think clearly anymore. So the neuroscience has really helped me understand my thinking and where it gets to be a challenge and why. And I think that is the incredible benefit of learning how the brain works. Because it is, we suddenly begin to understand why we do the things we do, and why some of the things work and why some of the things don't work, because it is related to neuroscience.
Wow.
And so, so I've learned to not overstimulate myself so that I don't lose, my executive function capabilities. But I've also learned that, I can't keep everything in here. And so, there's another sort of researcher, her name is Annie Murphy Paul. If you get a chance to get her book, The Extended Mind. The Extended Mind, Annie Murphy Paul.
Okay.
It's a very, very good book that helps us understand that in modern times, our brain can't keep that stuff in here anymore. We've just way overextended our capabilities to think clearly. And so the extended mind is the philosophy that we need to offload what's in here into other areas. And so having a to-do list, a vision board, a whiteboard where you can move things around, things that become visual, help us offload what's in here in terms of thoughts.
Wow.
And frees up space. So I have learned to offload so that I only keep in here what I need in this moment.
Wow. And that will happen.
So that I don't get distracted about the next thing. And it's like, that's offloaded already. The next thing is offloaded. It's already in a file. It's on my calendar. It's on my to-do list, on a sticky note. It's in a reminder. So that's already handled. So my brain doesn't have to hold that now in here while I'm talking to you.
Wow. Thank you so much.
So that book is mind-blowing. It's fabulous. It's extremely well written. Lots of stories, and not sort of so scientific that, she'll lose the reader, but I can highly recommend it.
Absolutely. Annie Murphy Paul, right? And the book
Annie Murphy Paul.
And the
yes.
book, The Extended Mind.
The Extended Mind.
I will
yes.
definitely look forward to that book, and I also look forward to contact her and send your message to her. You were the one who introduced me to the.
Yes,
to her
you
works.
can tell her that. You can tell her there's a fan club out there in the coaching world that she might not be aware of, and we love her work and her research, and we use it all the time in coaching. So, wow. If you get to talk to her, you can say there's a big group of people out there that love your work.
As an expert, we want to ask you yourself, your own way of thinking. How have you been helping you to grow your ability to think over the years?
So I would say two things. That's a great question, very practical question. The first is to learn how to better manage your own judgment. Alex Osborne, who was the founder of our department, invented the methodology brainstorming and developed the process, the very teachable, trainable process called creative problem solving. And one of the keys in that is to learn to suspend judgment. Learn to defer your judgment, because often, because of training, when we come up with an idea or we start to play with possibilities, the first thing we do is we evaluate it, we judge it. And that slows thinking down. And so defer your judgment, suspend it, hold it off, explore possibilities, because as soon as you start judging, you narrow your thinking down to evaluating rather than exploring. So learn to suspend judgment, hold off criticism, allow yourself to explore openly. Number one. Number two, in a chaotic world, learn to take a break. Give yourself the concept is called idea time to think. So take a walk. Do engage in some activity that's not highly cognitively demanding, because then that promotes mind wandering. Go for a bike ride, go for a drive. Do something that allows your mind to take a break and your brain to wander through memories. And often what this does is it leads to new connections, because when we're in a world that's go, working all the time, we don't allow ourselves, we need this incubation break. And great creators, they make it a daily routine to go for a walk, exercise, do something physical that's often very useful, or engage in a hobby, but something that allows your brain time to reflect. That's really important. So I'd say those two things: learn to defer judgment, and then two, give yourself idea time.
The idea time and defer our judgment. Thank you very much. What message did you tell yourself so that you can constantly see the bright side, the funny side of life? No.
Well, I think it just comes back to that. Everything that happens in life has a positive and a negative. Okay, and unless it's a really serious negative, you can live with it. You can work around it. You can find a solution. I think, for my sake, there's enough drama in life without having to create drama. Okay, so save the drama for the serious things, and apart from that, get on with it, do it, sort it out, move on. Life ain't tough in that sense. Okay, so for all that rest of stuff, which is 90-95% of life or more, move on. Okay, why being a drama? What will being a drama help? How will being a drama solve it? Because you can just do something and it will be solved. So save that energy, save that passion for that part of life that is tough, that is frustrating, and that is dangerous in terms of the broadest definition of the term. And save life for that. Save your worry for those things. Don't waste it on, oh, I've run out of milk, or oh, I've got a power cut, or something like that. It's life. Move on. Sorry. Anyway.
So teach us your way of expanding your ability to think so that we can share back to our audience, please.
Able social creatures, and that's important. We evolved from sitting around campfires after hunting all day and trying to survive all day. But we talked. When we sat around those campfires, we talked. And we told each other of what our experiences of the day were. We shared with each other the good hunting grounds, the good gathering grounds, where the dangers were. That is still true today. When we sit around a meal, or we sit around in a circle and we talk to each other, and we share our experiences, we're learning. We're learning from each other. Sometimes it's about learning what I don't like. If I don't know where I want to be, it's about learning where I don't want to be. If I don't know what I want to do, it's about learning what I don't want to do. There's the key, I think, to improving the way I think is listening to other people. It's about learning.
Beautiful.
Just simple learning.
Thank you very much.